Today's daily LeetCode problem of the day is count number of teams, number 1395. There are n soldiers standing in a line. Each soldier is assigned a unique rating value. We have to form a team of 3 soldiers under the following rules. Choose 3 soldiers with index I, J, and K with a rating of I, rating of J, rating of K. A team is valid if rating of I is less than rating of J and rating of J is less than rating of K. Or rating of I is greater than rating of J, which is greater than rating of K. Where 0 is less than or equal to I, which is less than J, which is less than K, which is less than N. So we want to return the number of teams we can form given these conditions. A soldier can be part of multiple teams. So let's look at the examples. So for the input, 2, 5, 3, 4, 1, the output is 3. We can form 3 teams. So team 1 is 2, 3, 4. Team 2 is 5, 4, 1. Team 3 is 5, 3, 1. Okay. Example 2, rating is 2, 1, 3. We can't form any teams because they need to go in order from left to right. We can't go middle value, left value, right value. They have to go in order. Example 3, the output is 4 because we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 3, 4. So how do we solve this type of problem? We're going to take a dynamic programming approach, and basically what does this mean? So we're going to break our larger problem down into smaller problems. Then we're going to store the solutions to those smaller problems and eventually build on to solving our bigger problem. To achieve this, we're going to use a 2D array, 2 2D arrays. Each array is going to have a position I, J, which represents the number of teams of size J that end with the ith member of the rating array. So initially we're going to populate these arrays with base cases. So for all positions where J is equal to 1, the number of ways to form a team is 1, as the ith soldier alone constitutes a single member of that team. We will then use 3 nested loops to consider all the combinations of team lengths 2 and 3 for each position of I and J. If we can append rating of J to the sequence ending with rating of I, we can update the count of teams at J by adding the count of teams of the previous length at I. So, what's our algorithm going to look like? We're going to initialize n as the length of rating and teams to store the required number of teams. We're then going to do our 2D integer arrays, increasing teams and decreasing teams, and they're going to be of size n by 4 to store the count of increasing and decreasing subsequences respectively. We will then fill base cases for all I from 0 to n. So we're going to set increasing teams of I of 1 and decreasing teams of I of 1 to 1, as each soldier forms a sequence of length 1. So we're basically going to say, you can start a sequence, 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 so on and so forth. We're then going to use 3 nested loops to fill the tables. The outer loop iterates over sequence lengths 2 and 3. The middle loop will set the middle soldier. The inner loop will iterate over all soldiers as potential endpoints for each pair of soldiers I and J. If rating of J is greater than rating of I, and increasing teams of I of count minus 1 to increasing teams of J of count, then we can add a team. So we're going to set teams as the sum of all sequences of length 3, and then return teams as our answer. So it's a little complicated. So how exactly do we apply that? We're first going to initialize teams and rating length. We will then create tables for increasing and decreasing sequences, then fill base cases, fill the tables, and then we can sum up results. And then we simply return teams. So let's code this. First things first is we're going to create an integer n, which is going to be rating.length, and an integer teams, which will be equal to 0 as of now. We then can create our tables for increasing and decreasing sequences. So it's going to be two 2D integer arrays, increasing, which is equal to new int. It's going to be of length n by 4. So the rows, there's going to be n amount of rows. So each one of these numbers will get its own row, and it's going to be of length 4 because we want to avoid using the 0 index. So we're going to store our members in increasing of 1, increasing of 2, increasing of 3. So now let's initiate our second table. So integer double array decreasing is equal to a new integer array of n of 4. So now we're going to fill our base cases. And these base cases basically just mean that we are going to have a person in the first position of each of these teams. So for int I is equal to 0, as long as I is less than n, we're going to I plus plus. Increasing of I of 1 is equal to 1. We have a person in the first spot. Decreasing of I of 1 is equal to 1. We have a person in the first spot. So now we're going to fill our tables with all the values that we get from rating. This is going to be a triple nested loop, and we're basically just going to check if rating, the current person we're looking at is greater than or less than the previous person we filled in the table. So for int count, which is going to be equal to 2, because it's the second person we filled in all of our first people, as long as count is less than or equal to 3, we only have 3 spots, count plus plus. For int I is equal to 0, as long as I is less than n, I plus plus. And then for int j is going to be equal to I plus 1, as long as j is less than n, j plus plus. So why are we using j is equal to I? It's because we can't go backwards. So we can't pick 1, 2, and then 3. We can only go from left to right while picking our teams. So how do we pick our teams? If rating of j is greater than rating of I, so in this example 3 is greater than 2, then for increasing of j of count, we can plus equal our increasing of I of count minus 1. So how does this work? This basically is filling our tables. And why does it fill our tables? This is extending all increasing subsequences of length count minus 1, ending at our I variable, to form increasing subsequences of length count ending at j. So increasing of j of count is incremented by increasing of I of count minus 1. So this is extending all sequences that end at I with whatever is at j, because that is the next number that can fill that sequence. Then we'll do the same thing for the decreasing. If rating of I is less than rating of j, we can extend all those subsequences. So decreasing of j of count plus equals decreasing of I of count minus 1. So that fills our tables. And now all is left is for us to sum up our results. And that can be done in a for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, as long as I is less than n, I plus plus, and teams is going to plus equal increasing of I, so it's going to increment through all of the rows, and if our third column in each of these rows has a value, which the value will be 1, that means there is a person in that spot, we're going to add it to our team, and then same thing for decreasing of I of 3. There should be either a 1 or a 0 there, and so either add 1 or 0 to our team, and then we can return our teams. That passes our test cases, and if we submit it, passes all solutions. Thank you. Follow for more daily LeetCode solutions.